Hello, Paul here. Welcome to Talking About the Who. Today we're talking about Zak Starkey leaving the Who or being fired from the Who, however you want to look at it. And I'm very happy to be joined by the host of the Fisher Protocol, the Who-based YouTube channel, Ethan Fisher. How you doing today, Ethan?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, it felt like this needed to be talked about. This is obviously huge news, and I think it's left a lot of fans wondering what the hell is going on in Who HQ. And yeah, to say from the off, everything we talk about today is our own opinions on this matter. We haven't got any inside knowledge. This is purely conjecture. This is based on the facts we have to hand and maybe what we think will happen next. But let's get into it. I think this is going to be a difficult one to analyze because it's almost a nonsensical situation as far as I'm concerned. But Ethan, can you sum up in a few words how you feel about this? What's happening?
Well, do you want to do a quick recap of like what we have so far, like just what has happened?
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. So,
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, I think on Tuesday this week, so that was April the 15th, it was announced that Zak Starkey had been fired from the Who. But the only quotes came from a spokesman for the Who and inside sources, and this was all in. It was broken by a newspaper called The Mirror here in the UK, so all sort of tabloid conjecture at that point, or so it seemed. Nothing official from the Who or from Zak Starkey. And then I think it was yesterday, which would have been April 16th. Zak Starkey kind of broke his silence about it and confirmed that he had left the Who or been asked to leave. And there's been a further update from Zak today via a spokesman, but still nothing on the Who's website or the Who social media. So that's basically where we are at the moment. So yeah, how do you sum it up in a few words, Ethan? What's your overall thoughts on this?
Well, that's the thing. I haven't really. It's still processing situation, right? Because Zach was weird on his Instagram, but he's always weird on his Instagram. That's not new, right? And and then I read this. You read the things and you're like, that doesn't sound real. That doesn't sound real. And I haven't been in a lot of Who spaces lately, but when you have your algorithm set up, they're going to seep in. And it just came flooding in, and I read all the facts, and we can get into details later, but I'm kind of just bewildered right now. And it's pretty upsetting, but it's also pretty ridiculous, and we can get into reasons from what we've seen as to why this might have happened. But I mean, it's kind of perplexing when you're on the victory lap of your career, right? Like why this drastic change. And I mean, if we can go over like one of the articles and just to like figure out why I think a lot of what people wrote is BS. And maybe it's BS fed by the band or someone in the band or sources close to the band to make it seem weird. I don't know. It's so weird, right? It's so weird.
That's the overriding thing is that it's nonsense. If Zak's been fired for the reasons that have been given, and when I say been given, it's only really him, I think, who's sort of made it clear why he's been fired, or not even made it clear, but he's the only one who's kind of given a clue as to why it's happened, apart from inside sources.
But
But it
it's not even like a clue. He just because there's also this okay. One of the most annoying things about big rock stars is when Brian Johnson lost his hearing, right? Do you remember this? Uh,
no, doesn't ring a
AC/DC
bell.
was doing a tour. Brian Johnson did a show and then went to a doctor. The doctor said, if you sing one more night with AC/DC, your hearing will be lost for forever. Like, that's how bad your hearing is. And they had a big tour. And so basically, they sacked him and they got Axl Rose, right? And then for that tour, but then Brian Johnson was back. He'd been to many doctors. But the way they did it was they were like, the manager calls him a car comes, you know, and picks up his stuff and he's gone. Like the band doesn't talk to him. Like Brian Johnson of AC/DC. It's ridiculous. So it seems like Zach got the same treatment to me with some BS reason made up because the reason given from the Who spokesman or whatever and what everybody cites is there's issues with this song is over at the Royal Albert Hall show, so Zach Starkey is not the drummer anymore, right?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think yeah, a lot of people I've seen on social media have pinpointed the song is over from the Royal Albert Hall, and we can go a bit further into that because I don't think that's really telling the story. But um, I'll take a brief moment just to sort of read a little bit from the original story in the Mirror. Um, yeah, so there's this paragraph which was from the Who spokesman. The band made a collective decision to part ways with Zach after this round of shows at the Royal Albert Hall. They have nothing but admiration for him and wish him the very best for his future. Which was followed by a source claiming that the decision had upset Zach and it was a little acrimonious to say the least. And sources also claimed there were question marks over Zach's drumming at the March shows. So that's where we were when the story broke on Tuesday this week. So 2 days ago at the time of recording this. But for a guy who's been in the band for 29 years, do you really fire him after two so-called substandard performances? I mean, if they'd fired John Hogg after these gigs, not that he did anything wrong, but you can kind of maybe understand it a little bit better. But really, you fire Zak Starkey after a substandard performance at the Albert Hall? That to me is just doesn't make any sense.
And by the way, it wasn't substandard. Um, we didn't hear it right. Me and you watched it together the first night, right? And um, I don't think it was substandard. And I did watch This Song Is Over, the one they had to restart. And I mean, we're gonna get into the Roger of it all, I assume, in a minute, because there's a lot to get into, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
the thing we're all kind of talking around right now. We're kind of talking, we don't want to get there yet, but he came in early, right? So he came in early and um so no, that's not why. There has to be something brewing for a long time. I think you don't know what it is. It's kind of weird that he's been the drummer for The Who for 30 years, but in every single article, and this has nothing to do with it, but it's funny to me that every single article, even now, is The Who's drummer or Zach's, or Ringo Starr's son. It's like the, you know what I mean? It's always Ringo Starr's son, which, is that's the way it's always going to be. Zach's used to it. I assume everyone's used to it. But no, that doesn't shake out to me uh that the song is over didn't go well, so Zach's out. I mean, that can't be it.
No, because I think for anyone who's watched the footage and obviously anyone who was there, you ask 99.9% of people, and they will probably tell you that it went wrong because Roger came in too early on a vocal, and it seemed that he had in-ear monitor issues. Nothing to do with the band's performance at all. And
Now,
yeah, sorry, no, go on.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that watching the footage back, there's a particularly vile newspaper in the UK called The Sun, but I didn't couldn't bring myself to actually click on it, but they've kind of made this headline of the moment Roger Daltrey loses it on stage with Zak Starkey, and you watch it back and he doesn't lose his rag with Zak Starkey or anyone in the band. If anything, he's annoyed at the sound technicians for the mixing his in-ear monitors or the on-stage monitors, whatever it is. At no point does it look like he has any beef with Zak Starkey at all. So I think we can, I think we can dismiss that straight out that they had this big row on stage. That didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen, but I did notice something.
Oh, okay.
And I just do want to warn people. This is where, uh my Lost watching the TV show Lost brain kicks in. Okay.
Okay.
I know we've talked about this before. Like, I have a very specific way to watch TV now where I don't trust anything and I watch everything very closely. I sent you a picture of Pete's face while Roger's screaming about the drums, right? He's
Yeah.
got this look on his face, which might, you know, be good to check out. And I mean, it almost seems like the conversation is, see, this is what I've been telling you about the drums. I mean, I don't know if you saw that or not, or I'm just crazy. This is my lost brain.
So is this from Pete's perspective?
From like just Pete, the way his eyes are like his face kind of drops and it's just like, I know I'm on stage now and everybody's watching. So I'm going to take what Roger's giving me, right? And deal with it later, get through this show. Um, and Roger's going off in a way. I don't know if he said I've been telling you or anything like that, but it just seems like, see, I can't do this with the drums like that or something. That's literally me reading way too much into it, which is this whole conversation is anyway.
Hmm.
Uh, so it it just seems very odd to me. Sorry, my dog's starting to bark,
Oh, that's okay.
taking my concentration a little bit. But
I think we'll probably say that a lot today, that it's all very odd. It's all very strange. Um, yeah. Let's just quickly read a little bit of this statement from Zak Starkey that was
okay,
released yesterday. Um, and I think, to be fair to Zak Starkey, he comes across quite well with this statement. He says, "I'm very proud of my near 30 years with the Who. Filling the filling the shoes of my godfather, Uncle Keith, has been the biggest honour, and I remain their biggest fan. They've been like family to me." Then he talks a little bit about the blood clot he had in his right leg recently, but now it's completely healed. Doesn't affect his drumming. And then he says, after playing those songs with the band for so many decades, I'm surprised and saddened anyone would have an issue with my performance that night. But what can you do? And then he talks about taking some time out to spend it with his family, focus on the new Mantra of the Cosmos album. And I didn't know this, he's finishing his autobiography. So that'll be interesting reading, especially even more so now. But it's just that line, after so many decades of playing these songs, I'm surprised and saddened anyone would have an issue with my performance that night. And that kind of, to me, that ties in with what you were saying about AC/DC and Brian Johnson. It almost seems like someone's given him an excuse that just doesn't wash at all. And it's kind of, it sounds like it's left him confused, I think. Is that fair to say?
yeah, it really does sound like it. And it's almost turns into a thing where like if people love him or anything, but the band has made this decision. And let's face it, they say the band, that's Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey. They make those decisions together. And for in my mind, Pete Townsend doesn't want to push back against Roger Daltrey, period, anymore. He just doesn't. I think he feels like he did that a lot, and life is short, and it's much shorter for them now. And if it makes Roger happy, it makes me happy, and yeah, let's do it. Because I'm just going to show up and play guitar and sing anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, it sounds like he was given the same kind of like, you know, this is Bill Kerbishley or his representative. You're not in the band anymore, or like he just calls his manager and tells him kind of thing, right? In a cooler sounding voice than I just did. But yeah. Now
Yeah.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go on.
You had a health scare, right?
Yeah.
A bad a bad one.
Yeah.
I've been taken to the hospital before with blood clots many years ago. And it was easy to kick. It was just medicine, but I had to stay there for a couple days. You know what I mean? And they had to go down. I had to be on blood thinners for a long time, TMI. So these are major health scares that really kind of scare you.
Mm.
Blood clot is a very serious thing. Carrie Fisher and numerous others pass away from a blood clot. So maybe there's something to an attitude change in Zach too. Like, I mean, and you can speak to this more clearly than I can, as far as, taking a bit more time to, live your life to the fullest, and maybe you're not going along with everything everyone says just because. they're a rock god to you or whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe he's getting on for a young man himself at 60, right? Like, maybe there's some pardon the expression, maybe there's some level of shit he's not willing to eat anymore. And maybe that could be it too. We have no idea. So, I mean, what if you can confirm or deny that those things happen after that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Your perspective on life changes. Yeah, and yeah, speaking for myself, I think yeah, my perspective really did change on life, which is one reason I'm kind of doing all this Who stuff now. But yeah, I think there's something to that. But if that is the case, and it could very well be part of it, surely a statement from the band saying something along the lines of Zach has decided he needs to take some time away from the band, spend time with his family. We wish him all the best. And you'd kind of think, fair enough. It's sad, but fair enough. But
Right.
where has this drumming performance thing come from? I think it's that's the thing that gets me about all this. It's the reason for his firing. And as I said, it's only Zak Starkey who's really mentioned it. That's the reason.
No, I think that was a line in one of the early stories because the early stories had some lines in it. They also got some things wrong. A couple of early lines said he performed on Endless Wire and Who, and he was not on Endless Wire. And
Yeah. So
and
I should. What I mean to say is, it's the only thing that's been officially said from either the Who or Zak Starkey
right, yeah.
pertaining to a reason. That I think what was in the article was an inside source who said there were issues that had arisen around his drumming, but an actual reason from either the Who or Zak Starkey, the only one that's been given is Zach saying, "I'm surprised and saddened that anyone would have an issue with my drumming," and it's that that gets me. That's what I find really weird.
It is really weird. And we talked about the music thing, um, but for it to be so sudden, and if like there's like there are shows this summer, right? There's a couple right now, I
Yeah,
think.
there's two in Italy in July. I think they're literally the only two shows that are booked at the moment.
So they literally have to break in a whole new drummer to do a Who set list of hits.
Yeah, if they're going to carry on with this current lineup, the way it's set up, the 7-man lineup with Pete with
Okay,
an electric
well,
guitar, yeah, they're going to need a new drummer.
and who's that going to be? I mean, they did Quadrophenia without him. I forgot why he was away, but he was doing something else. And he got offered to be in the Who, and he declined,
Mm.
right? And maybe that was because, he's seen up close what being in the band and the bad sides of a band can do to a person, right? But yeah, it's completely sudden and it's out of it, I have to say it's down to Roger. You know what I mean? It I think he's got this thing now where he's got LSD, right? Lead singer disease. And but also but and I've spoken at this at length before, but I mean he's earned the right to. Well, now when I spoke about this before, I never in a million years thought it would. You see, that's the thing. You never thought in a million years this would happen.
No, definitely
Right?
not.
And and if it's the purely American thing, like he gets a pension and he gets a gold watch at year 30 and we can't afford it. Uh, you know, that's some American corporate stuff right there, right? Um, it's just so weird. And he's been the drummer, the first time I saw the Who, Zak Starkey was the drummer. The first time you saw the Who, Zak Starkey was the drummer.
I think his first gig with the Who was my first gig with the Who.
Right. So, I mean, that's our Who that, and it just doesn't seem right and it doesn't seem to be treated right.
No,
And but Roger Daltrey's earned the right. It's his band, right? To do with as he wants. And he's kind of the drummer firer guy anyway, right? That's his thing, right?
this is true. We'll get a bit deeper into the whole the Roger of it as you described. I just want to end this just this reading from various quotes around this story. So this is an update today, which is on the only website I could find. This is the Daily Mail, which is another website I'm really loath to go on, but I couldn't see it anywhere else, so I had to click on it. But this is a further update. This is from Zak Starkey's spokesman. A spokesman for Zach hinted that when things settle down, there will be, quote, light at the end of the tunnel, and described the row as a, quote, typical rock and roll fallout. They said healing can take time. Zach is without doubt one of the UK's greatest drummers, and to question his drumming ability and performance is, in my mind, a musical insult. He has exceptional timing, rhythmic drive, and has created a solid foundation for The Who, and I feel his godfather, Keith Moon, would only be too proud of Zach taking his seat. I'm sure there will be some light at the end of the tunnel when things settle down. Hey, it's only rock and roll, but we love it.
All right. Well, fuck you for ending on a Rolling Stones quote, but still. Um, but who said that?
That was a spokesman for Zak Starkey, apparently. And there's only one newspaper reporting that, so I don't know if that's going to gain some traction over the next few hours or not. But
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is, one, it's reached critical mass because like I got my mother sending me links, right? It's everywhere. Uh, what was I gonna say? But it's also like this thing with the Who is like talking to each other through the press,
yeah,
right? That's usually Pete and Roger, right? And so it seems like Zach was he posted some weird things that I don't want to look at again or talk about on his Instagram
yeah.
that are things that a person who is in a good relationship with someone would not post,
I feel like
right?
we need to talk about them. I don't necessarily have to look at them, but I think we need to talk about them a little bit because I think it does kind of give some indication on to what as to what's gone down here.
I'm only thinking of the one, the Y, whatever. I had to look up what a Y front is from
Oh,
America. Yeah.
yeah. Is that a British thing? Is it Y
Yeah,
fronts?
well, it's just called a Speedo over here.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, as we're talking
For a
about that,
brief, yeah, yeah.
let's I'll give a quick overview of Zach Starkey's Instagram timeline for the next few days, or sorry, the past few days. So when you first look at it, you think, oh, this is quite random, which is classic Zach Starkey on Instagram. I think that's what makes his feed so entertaining. The first one is from 6 days ago at time of recording. So this is footage of the Who from I think 1975, and it's slowed down, and there's a cover of "So Sad About Us" playing over it. I think it's Primal Scream's cover. I think I'm not sure about that, but it's a slow version, and Zach has put as his post sort of, and then Pete interestingly has replied perfect. So looking at that now, I think that's interesting. So the song "So Sad About Us," okay. Then there's a picture of Zach with Pete with his arms around him, and Zach has put "What a guy." And then there's the picture you're talking about, which is, if we're to believe what Zach puts in his post, which is nice bum, shame about the Y fronts, Roger. This is Roger Daltrey sunbathing on his stomach with some, he's a lot of his bum cheeks showing basically. And then the words Eminence Y fronts on top of it. That was from both of those, that was 6 days ago as well. So those three posts are in the same day, and then we have after that it's 5 days ago. So the next day, I don't want to read all of this out. This is all in caps lock as well, and this is. I thought it was a joke. It's basically Zach joking about being fired from the Who.
Well,
But
yeah. Is it the news one you're talking about?
yeah, so the Daily Who
Yeah.
breaking news, a picture of Zach and Roger, and then Zach has put a load of stuff in caps lock, which is all very humorous and light-hearted and reads as a joke. But I think there's definitely a lot more to it now.
Well, it reads like, "Hey guys, we're running this story that's coming out," and he just wanted to like what was happening was not true, and he was making fun of the news story, is what it sounded like.
Yeah, so he knew it was coming.
Did you want to read read that?
Yeah, so heard today from inside source within Who's horse's nose that Todger Daltrey, lead singer and principal songwriter of the group, unhappy with Zach the drummer's performance at the Albert Hall a few weeks ago, is bringing formal charges of overplaying and is literally going to Zach the drummer and bring on reserve from the Burwash Car Wash, Skiffle and Tickle, Glee Club Harmony with our Empathy All Stars. This has been confirmed by Who's longtime manager, Will Ya You Won't You Know. I mean, that's a brilliant post, but I think there's definitely more to it now than I realised when I first saw it. And just the final picture that sorry, the final Instagram post that
Yeah,
kind of sheds light on all this in a way that it didn't before is a video of Zak Starkey playing on stage with the Who, and it says in he's plastered the words over it, the Spanish Archer, which basically is the joke. Elbow is the Spanish Archer's name, and getting the elbow. I don't know if that's
I don't.
people in the US are familiar with that. It basically means to be separated or sacked, to be dumped. It's to get the elbow.
Oh, 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 okay.
Yeah. So he's kind of telling us there, I think, what's about to break in the press. And he's obviously not happy about it. I don't think he's been very light-hearted about it, but it's that picture of Roger sunbathing. If
And the
it,
fact that it's not down yet,
yeah,
right? Like, it's just so. I mean, and you know what? I really don't think Roger Daltrey is looking at Instagram,
no, not at all.
and but I'm sure he might have friends or relatives that are, right? So it's so odd and passive aggressive and very whoish.
Yeah, I think if that was posted before they decided to fire him, I don't think he cares either way if a pitch like that's online, and probably doesn't even know about it. But I can't help but think Zak Starkey has posted that maybe in a sort of petulant way, because it's funny how the next picture is him with Pete and Pete with his arms around him, and Zach has put what a guy. That says to me, this this is Roger's doing. I don't like Roger anymore, but I still like Pete. That's how it reads to me. I could be wrong in that, obviously, but yeah,
Yeah. Um, do we want to talk about Roger for a minute?
we could talk about Roger because I think we have to really. I'm seeing a lot of anger towards Roger on social media. I think a lot of it is unjustified because I believe a lot of it is about the Song is Over performance. And although you say there's that picture of Pete and the way he looks at Roger, there may be something more to it. I don't think that actual moment is the reason that
No,
Zach
I
has
don't
left the
think that
band.
reasons. I don't think that reasons the moment. Because that's just absolutely ridiculous,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I don't believe there's a row on stage between Roger and Zach. I don't think Roger even looks at Zach. He just says all he can hear is the drums and he's in ear monitors. And even says, I think he even says to the band, it's not you guys.
Right.
So I don't know where it's the
Yeah,
bloody.
that's why I think it has to be something overall. And Roger made some headlines a couple weeks ago about, I'm going deaf and I'm going blind.
Yes, I think that was taken out of proportion as well.
That was definitely taken out of proportion, especially if you're a man in your 80s.
Yeah,
Um,
because he says all the time, "I've gone deaf." He hasn't literally gone deaf in the same way he's not literally going blind. He's probably just got his eyesight's got worse. He's got older. That's not a news story.
right. Um, but there is something to being when you get to that age to saying what you want and not caring. Um, you know what I mean? And maybe, putting your foot down and saying, I'm not, I'm not gonna like let anyone talk me down from this hill I've decided to die on. And if you've done that on one side, and on the other side you have a person who's had a health issue that won't take even the slightest amount of shit that he used to take,
Hmm.
and what are you doing? You're putting Pete Townsend in between a mountain and an immovable object, right? Right. And what's he gonna do? He's gonna side with his mountain that he's been with for, 20, 35 years more than this other person.
Yeah,
Um, it's sad. But the reasons why Roger does what Roger does, you know what I mean, is because he's had to keep this train on the station while he's had people, you know, messed up around him for years and years and years, and he's been the one that, at least legend goes, has, had a cup of tea and gone to bed, which, we can only we can only, accept that so much, especially from the early days. But he's, it's almost like Leonard Nimoy. Okay, I'm sorry to bring this up. Like it's Leonard Nimoy. Okay, he plays Spock in 1963. Through that time, he's had a myriad of writers, directors, producers through however many years he played that role. And at the end of the day, who can tell you best about, even though he's not the guy that writes most of the language, who can tell you about Spock more than anyone but Leonard Nimoy? Like who can tell you more about the Who or represent what the Who does besides like Pete and Roger, right? If that makes any sense. Like, you know, um they even let Christopher Reeve make Superman 4, It's like because he's the guy that's still there. Like Roger's the one that's been there. And Pete has said like almost since Quadrophenia, since Zach came on, that um uh that Roger's been like the driving force behind the band and the person who takes it in a different musical direction sometimes. Um I don't know, that's a rant that just went off the rails, which happens with me sometimes. It's this great stream of consciousness, but it's like did that latest statement from Zach, does that mean that they're just mad and they need to get over it and it's going to be okay? Because it sounds pretty formal. It sounds pretty solid right now.
I mean, yeah, with a band like the Who, I think, and let's go back over what we've talked about. That Y fronts picture, that's not the reason you sack Zach Starkey, especially if that picture's still there. Roger probably doesn't don't even care that's there.
Right.
I don't think you sack Zach Starkey after a so-called substandard drumming performance, which we can go into this a bit further. It wasn't substandard. It was, I think, classic Zach Starkey, if anything. And I don't think you just sack a guy who's been there with the band for 29 years over something over something that's a one-off incident. Let's say I
Right.
kind of get the feeling it's either something that's boiled to the surface that's been simmering for a while, or it is a one-off thing, but it's such a big deal that he had to go. And I'm not sure we'll know what that is. I can't believe it's because of his drumming. If
Uh,
anything, I wonder if they've told him that just to piss him off, if anything, because something has happened and they're not happy. I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
just
yeah,
kind
and
of,
I just want to make it clear, I don't believe he is fired for the drumming. I believe he is fired for some kind of personality thing or slight or anything. And I think it's got to be mostly on Roger's side, I would assume. But he is Roger Daltrey, so when it comes to the Who, what he says goes. So what he says goes is what basically what I'm saying.
yeah, and I think you probably hit the nail on the head. It's Roger's 81 years old. He's at the point of life where he doesn't need to give a shit anymore. And Zach Starkey is at a point where he's overcome this major health scare and he probably doesn't give a shit anymore. And they've butted heads. Pete's in the middle, as you say, and it's something so bad that he had to go. I mean, to fire the guy, not even to, you know, let's not talk for a few weeks. Let's then get back together. We'll talk it through. No one else needs to know about this. But to actually go out and publicly fire the guy, it has to be something quite bad, surely.
And those first couple articles are got a real vibe of like someone leaking something out of, being seriously pissed off, you know. It and I can't say who or what because I have no idea, but it's like, well, we'll tell them this because of this and blah blah blah. And I can just see them doing it in anger and something picking it up, and because it doesn't seem like Zach got a call. It sounds like he's read it in the newspaper and then had to call someone to get confirmation and then had to like put out a statement because,
Because
social
that's the
media.
thing. If you're looking for an excuse to give to the press as to why you fired him, surely you pick something better than it's because of his drumming, which is nonsensical.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm wondering, have they done that to piss him off because he's pissed them off? or he's pissed Roger off, or he's pissed someone off in the Who camp.
Zach seems like a chill guy,
Mm.
right? It seems like anyone can get pissed off for a few minutes, but then you can obviously see him starting to look back at the good stuff, which is the relationship he has with Pete, the relationship he has with everybody else, with Simon, whatever, right? Um, so I can see him getting pissed off doing this, these couple Instagram posts or whatever that are negative, and then chilling out and putting out these couple statements. So we'll just have to see. I have no idea who they're going to get to drum for them, and I don't know, if this makes me less interested to see them. I don't know. I wasn't in a high interest at this point anyway. I mean, I was kind of hoping, and I spoke to you about this a little bit, that once we heard the song is over, that they would do like a back to front, like who's next, uh, like concert tour thing, which would be amazing to me because one of the songs they never did was "The Song Is Over," and I think it sounded good on the second go around.
Yeah, it
Uh,
really did. Yeah.
it sounded amazing. So, but people are saying Roger sounds better than ever. I just don't know what they would do, and yeah, I'm upset about it. I wasn't trying to
Mm.
be upset about anything, but it's upsetting. He's been the drummer since I've been a Who fan, since I've seen the Who live. You know what I mean?
And
Every
it
time
has.
I've seen the Who, except for like the Quadrophenia shows, it's been him.
And the other thing is, it's come out of absolutely nowhere as well. There was no build up to this.
Yeah, and we when we were watching the live presentation, we were talking, and it wasn't a presentation, we were jacking it from Zak Starkey's account. Um, what we weren't showing on the screen is me and you were constantly commenting on the comments that it was getting, and it was people complaining about the drums, but they were complaining about it being electronic drums, um, and they just wouldn't shut up about it. But it had nothing to do with his drumming in any
Mm.
way, shape, or form. So it doesn't sound right. And it also sounds like that the two, Pete and Roger, don't are kind of like, we just need to do what we need to do and move on if we're going to, because life's short. He's probably the same way. That's all.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned electronic drums because that's one thing. Another thing I've seen on social media, a lot of people talking about, and there a lot of people don't like it. And I can fully sympathise with that, and I can understand it probably doesn't sound as good at a gig hearing electronic drums. But I also have no problem with it because if it works for Pete and Roger, then that's the way it's got to be. Unless you're going to go down another route and do it as an acoustic thing. Um,
But even if they do it acoustic, does that mean that Zach Starkey can't play the drums for that? I mean,
yeah, I mean that was my first thought when the story broke. I wondered if it was they'd considered the Albert Hall gigs as an experiment. They decided it was a failed experiment. It didn't work for them. So they were therefore going to do something more similar to what they did in 2020 at Prism in London with Joe Lillian Scott percussion, and that was really stripped back acoustic. And then they did it a couple of years later at the Albert Hall for the Teenage Cancer Trust. And they just felt Zak Starkey just didn't fit into that. Um, that was my first thought. And then another thing I thought could be the reason is that he's going to be drumming for Oasis in the summer, so he's taking time out from the Who. But I don't think it's
they're
either of those things now.
well, I thought, I think they announced who their drummer was. I don't know. I don't really follow Oasis news.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, that could well
Uh,
be the case.
I thought now if that's the thing, if it comes down to the Who or Oasis, like right now that Oasis thing is going, and because I don't know, because like when people get things wrong on podcasts and they just keep talking about it, I scream at my radio, I scream at my TV. So I'm not gonna go on about something I have no idea about. But that Oasis thing next year is going to be like, I mean, starting the summer, it's all we're going to hear about, basically. If you
Mm.
have any kind of British music in your algorithm at all, that's what it's going to be for like a solid year once that first show starts. Um, so I mean, that's a hefty payday he either took or gave up because he had two commitments. And you know what? That's not a small thing to Paul, I don't know if you know this, the economy is not doing great right now.
Oh, really? Breaking news. You heard it here first.
Right. So, who knows how much of any of that is wrapped up in anyone's attitudes, you know what I mean? You know, it's all it's a bummer, man. I like Zach.
I mean, I'm thinking out loud now. Has he agreed to play with Oasis, and that's pissed Roger off?
All right, we're gonna have to
I don't know.
I'm looking it up. Oasis drummer 2025. Oh, it pops up right away. Is it, because everyone is looking up the same thing. Because I think they've been in rehearsals for a while. Joey Wanaker. While there were rumors about Zach Starkey or Alan White potentially returning, Joey Wanaker is confirmed to be behind the drums.
Okay,
And
so
he is a respected drummer and producer who has worked with various artists, including Beck, REM, and even played with Liam Gallagher and John Squire. So, you know,
you get economy and Oasis news as part of your Who YouTube viewing today.
he's part of the conversation because this is a Zach conversation, and he's,
No,
it's all
totally.
we have no idea what's happening. Um, and the fact that it got out like this is probably upsetting to them. They probably didn't want it like that.
Going back to the acoustic thing, you mentioned
Hmm.
can they still do it with Zak Starkey? I think at the Albert Hall gigs when they did the Seeker and Pete, and it was an acoustic version, I thought that worked really well. And Zach wasn't holding back; he was playing it as he normally plays it. But I kind of liked it, that kind of driving rhythm, but acoustic guitars. I thought that was really good. Not something I'd really considered that they would probably do, really. But so no, if they were to go down a more acoustic route because they feel like what they did at the Albert Hall doesn't work, it could totally work with Zak Starkey on drums.
Well, I think that's my point. I think he could. My question was kind of rhetorical, simply because of course he can do it.
Hmm.
Like, there's no way he can't do it. Um, and I forgot when I saw Roger on this last tour. Was it just Jody Lynn Scott? And did he have someone else doing drums? I don't think he did.
I think
So,
I think the tour last year, I think Scott DeVores was on drums and Jody was on percussion.
okay. Well, I mean, now here's the thing, like, all these great pulls they've had for musicians over the years have been from Roger's touring band. And I think Scott did do the Quadrophenia shows, I think,
Yeah,
right? The 2012, 2013s or whatever. So maybe, I mean, the answer is obvious and it's going to be Scott, you know. I just don't know how much it has. I don't know how much it has to do with drumming or personality, and it's probably somewhere in personality land.
I think so. Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if we'll ever know the real reason, but I refuse to believe it's because of his drumming. I think I don't even know why you'd even put that out as the reason. But again, Zach's the only one who's officially said anything about it, and he's obviously got it from somewhere.
Right.
So he's been told that he's overplaying or it was his performance. But again, like, I don't understand it. Why would you even give that as a reason? Even if you're giving it to him privately and it's not the truth, why would you? Why would you even? Why is that the reason? That's the thing I really can't get my head around.
And if it was for the reason for that one show, why didn't you give the man a chance to, like, work with you to hear what you're saying to redo it? Like, we just don't know. We just don't
Yeah,
know.
there was nothing in that at that Albert Hall gig to suggest his drumming was off in any way.
No, absolutely not. They were great shows. So, I mean, it's kind of the end of an era. It's kind of sad. You know what I mean? It's the end of another Who era. I didn't think we are gonna have another end. It's literally Spinal Tap right now. We're in Spinal Tap land because, next it's Ed Begley Jr. He's free, because the drummers, you know.
But that's the other thing, and I think you kind of alluded to it earlier that these obviously are the autumn years of the Who's career, and unless it is something really bad that's happened or something that's really rubbed Roger up the wrong way, and we're thinking this is a Roger Zach issue. If it isn't that, why would you even consider making a huge change of this nature at this stage? And obviously we don't know how many more gigs they're going to be doing. They've got two booked. We don't know if they're planning a tour or anything like that. But
I mean, they obviously I think they have to be because why would you do this with two shows left only, right? So it just seems weird because you know how they do these, but if they were doing something this summer, it probably would have been announced by now,
yeah, you'd think so.
honestly. So, you know, I'm gonna plant a flag here. I bet you those two, what are those? Are these festival dates in Italy? Something like that?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if those things were canceled.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, I'll eat crow if they aren't, but it doesn't sound like they're in a good situation right now. And if they are, it's, Roger in a room yelling. You know what I mean? He's getting pretty it seems like he's getting what's the word? Ornery? Ornery? Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't have Monster Energy today just because I wanted to be chill for you, so
No,
I
that's okay. I've been
drank
dosed up on
stuff.
painkillers this week, so I'm not 100% with it either. And this story hasn't helped either. Um, I mean, that's another thing. Like, with these Albert Hall gigs, they did do a fair bit of rehearsal with, in respect of the amount of rehearsal they would normally do for a gig. But there just seem to be so many sound issues on stage. Um, and yeah, I don't know what my point was going to be there, but I don't think you could put it down to under rehearsing either.
Were there sound issues on stage?
I think more sound issues for Roger, probably more than anyone.
He's always, but like, he's always had sound issues, and
Yeah,
he's got a good point. He has to hear to sing. He does, and it's just because when we see that video, we see the Who working, right? It's not a story to us if they screw up a song is over and have to start over. That's a Who gig. That's a good Who gig for us, right? Like that's what we thrive on. We'd like to watch them fuck up.
yeah,
Um, and
absolutely.
and so, it's great if Roger's screaming and then they have to come back and do it again. He does it perfectly, which is what happened, right? Um, that's a good show for us. So it's got to be. It seems like it's personal somehow, and we have no way of knowing how or why or logistics or you know Zach can't come in Monday for rehearsal because he's got to do something, take his kid to the dentist. And Roger's like, "That's it. That's enough. I've had it." Yeah, I took my
Uh,
kid to the dentist this morning. Anyway,
yeah, let's hope it isn't that. Um, but one thing I will say about this story, it's typical Who. It's never straightforward, is it? That's something. It's consistent, if nothing else.
well, it's never straightforward, but we always get a little happy when our band's in the news, but this is not good. And then, you go in the worst place in the world, which is Facebook comments, because I'm like, I want to get some more info and let me see what's happening here. And it's just the worst kind of like, well, they should have packed it up years ago, or they have no business, or the same people that are were bitching about Keith Moon are now saying, "What? That's it. I'm never going to see the Who again." It's like you've been singing that song since 1978, and now the song's over. Okay.
Yeah, I
See,
mean the
that's how
fact
you end on a Who pun, not on a Rolling Stones.
that's it. I think Zak Starkey needs a better spokesman.
Yeah, right.
So, so what's your prediction for the Who going forward? Then, do you think these Italy gigs are going to be cancelled? And if they are, where do they go after that? What
There's
do you
only
think's
two
good?
choices. There's only two choices. There's a tour or the cancellation of the two gigs, because it's not going to be get Scott DeVores or whatever for two gigs, and then that's the end of the Who. That would be that would be lame. You know, that would be everything past, Pink Floyd doing Live 8 and then everything that happened after, right? It's like you have a great end and then, the worst of the acrimonious stuff. Um, I I just don't see why it creates so much more work for them for himself, Roger, in this case, to have a whole new drummer. And of course, someone like Scott will be able to pick it up immediately. Sure, but you know, I think this dreams of a whole acoustic show thing are not possible. I really don't. Um, unless they completely rename it Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey acoustic or something like that. Um, I really have no idea. Like my dreams of a who's next, uh back to front show, they don't disappear completely. They can kind of do whatever they want. And I guess the main point is as long as it's Pete and Roger, they can do whatever the fuck they want at any time. Um, it's just a bummer. I mean,
So,
yeah, I don't have a prediction except I do think it's going to be canceled or a tour. I don't think there's going to be an in between.
I mean, a question's popped into my head: is the drum seat in the Who now a poison chalice? If Zak Starkey's been fired for his performance, and as we've said, not that we think that's the real reason, but if that's what's out there publicly, who's going to want to drum for the Who?
Probably Scott divorced. I don't know. Probably probably any drummer in the entire world would want to do that almost, you know, from that era or, a little later. I'm sure they would jump at the chance. You know what I mean? Get Phil Collins now. I guess you can't. And that's not a knock on Phil. I love Phil. I'm just, I know that
Oh, can
I
you
know he won.
imagine? Can you imagine if they announced that Phil
Imagine
Collins?
the world, but just imagine the world where right after right after Keith goes, they get Phil. Imagine that world.
Oh dear. I mean, one thing I'll say is that I really hope, even if the Italy gigs are cancelled, I really hope this isn't how it ends. Um, I'm, I mean, the Albert Hall gig as a last gig kind of feels fitting in a way, with the song is over being the final song. But with everything that's happened this week, I hope that's not the end of it because that's no way to end the story.
Well, no, we can only hope that like what would be a fitting end would be honestly what would be a fitting end would be you know, everybody calming down and they get back together with him for the last two shows in Italy or whatever it is. Or a tour, but who knows? I mean, who knows? It might be too far gone, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. That's for sure. And to be saying that about the Who is something, I guess, that they're still keeping us on our toes. It's never a dull moment.
Even when I'm trying to have dull moments, right? I'm trying to, take a break and relax, and all of a sudden it's like, bam! I even got a comment on my YouTube thing. What do you think of this? I'm like, I'll link them to this when it gets published.
Yeah, but as we said at the start, this is all conjecture. This is all our opinion. We have no inside knowledge. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think we had to come together today and talk about this. But is there anything that we need to cover before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, I could have gone off into random whole arguments I made for either side. Like, I'm very easily come up with the entire scripts between the two, but of how it went down and what could have happened. But we have no idea, right? Um, so no, just glad we were able to talk about it. But like, I'm still like processing. It's weird because he's been in the Who longer than almost anyone else besides the two guys. But well, him and Simon came on kind of at the same time, right? And
Mm,
that's a take I'd like to get, right? But he's not going to talk to anyone. Uh
no, that's it.
and I'm trying to think if I've seen Zach on tour with Roger. I'm sure I have. Has he? I would have to look that up.
Yeah, I think he would have done in the mid 90s, but in recent years, I'm not sure to be honest.
Not recently.
I'm actually going to see Roger on Monday in London, which I'm really excited about.
You
Um,
are?
yeah, my first ever Roger Daltrey solo gig.
Is he doing question and answers after?
I don't actually know, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure. I don't even know what the lineup of the band is. I'm guessing it's the same as last year. Um,
Because if he does the question answer thing,
it's going to be very
it,
interesting.
and he's probably paying himself in the corner if that's what he's advertised.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he brings up the sheets and they're the same questions he always gets and he answers in the same way, but there might be a few more that are different in there now. Or he's like, "Oh, we decided not to do the question and answer this time."
I'll answer these in alphabetical order. They all start
Yeah.
with Z.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Uh,
really interesting. Would anyone be brave enough to ask him about it? I wonder.
yes. The assholes that go to these shows? Yes.
I don't think I would.
Oh no, I wouldn't. No, it'd be different.
Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, someone will ask it. If it
Yeah,
happens, I'll let you know. I'll report
please.
back. I kind of hope there is a Q&A because it's really going to create some tension in that room.
Yeah, don't try to video his show. He'll personally find you and come after you.
That's it. Um, so is there anything coming up in the next few weeks with the Fisher Protocol that we can look forward to?
If I can really get myself down to editing, we have a bunch of shows in the can to put out. We have a review coming up of Simon Townsend's Among Us and some other things coming in for the final season because we're not going to do it anymore after this. But I have them in the can. I just got to cut them up and put them out,
All right.
including one with you.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed, and yeah, it's a shame you kind of calling it a day, or at least putting it on hold for a while. But yeah, there's some great content there, so I recommend going to the Fisher Protocol and checking out all their content.
Well, you only know it's going to be over when I post a picture of myself in Y fronts.
Yeah, that's when this all ends. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, thanks a lot for listening. If there is any updates to this story, then maybe we'll come back and sort of navigate our way through the quagmire. Um,
Giggity.
yeah, but for now, that's kind of all we got because I guess there isn't really much to go on. But at the same time, it opens up so many questions. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. So till next time, we'll see you later.